Okay, so
Hello.
welcome everybody. Today, in part 2 of our career transformation mini course, we are talking about effective self-marketing. Today's class is really one of the more, I would say it's one of the more important things that nobody teaches us as musicians how to really do. We learn how to use our voice, we learn how to make really pretty sounds, and then sometimes we learn how to teach those really pretty sounds to other people. But we never really get any training in how to put ourselves out there in a way that makes sense, which is crazy because in the business world and in the marketing world, there's so much psychology and strategy that goes into selling things and how to get people to want to buy things that we just are totally not clued into as artists, as musicians.
And it's so crucial because we're all our own, we represent our business, right? We are our own brand. So every time we walk out into the world, every time we have a conversation, every time we have some upcoming event, we are our own marketers. There's nobody else out there for us. And if we have a studio, if we're trying to teach, or workshops or whatever that looks like, we have to learn how to do this. And we are, I would say, the least equipped of all of the different fields. Like we talk to people who've started small businesses in medicine, in business, in all of these different things, and they all have some type of experience, some type of education that has shown them how to do this stuff. And when we got into this and we branched out into our own business, we had
to start from ground zero.
Idea what we were doing.
It's just not something that musicians are taught at all.
Right.
So really, what it comes down to is understanding what it is that you are selling. And a lot of times we as artists don't like to think of ourselves as selling something, but you are. If you are making money, you are selling something. And it is not yourself. You are not selling you. You are not even selling, excuse me, your voice. You are selling an opportunity for transformation. You are offering to whoever it is that you are trying to attract to you, whether that be an audience, whether that be an audition panel, whether that be vocal students, whoever it is that you are trying to bring into your sphere of influence, you are offering them some kind of future version of what they can become. The vehicle to do that is your product, and your product can be your singing, it can be your teaching, it can be any number of different things, but you are not actually selling your product. So think about it this way: when you buy a candy bar at the store, you're not actually really that concerned about the candy bar. There is no inherent value to the candy bar itself. What you are buying is how that candy bar will make you feel when you're, I'm so hungry, I'm grumpy, I'm just lashing out at everybody because it's a Snickers commercial. That's what Snickers commercials are based upon. It's not the candy bar, it's how the candy bar makes you feel. It's like, oh, I feel good now. I'm no longer, I don't turn into some diva that screams at everybody.
Right.
I feel better after eating that candy bar.
Yeah, same holds true when we go see movies. Nobody is going to see a movie right now to go support Leonardo DiCaprio. No one cares that much about whether or not he is fed by our seeing of his movie. We go to see his movie because it makes us feel something new. Mm-hmm. And that's why the audience comes to see us. They don't really care about us. They care about what we are doing for them. And it is so beautiful to do things to help other people, right? It's so beautiful to go work at a soup kitchen. It's so beautiful to serve other people in a million different ways. But none of us is really doing this for completely altruistic reasons. We all do, when we go to a soup kitchen, it is fabulous. It feels so good to know that we're helping other people. And part of why we go back is because of how good it feels to us, right? Because it's something to put on our resume. Because it's something that makes us recognize the goodness within ourselves, or makes other people recognize the goodness within ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so when we are doing things, no matter what it is that we are doing, no matter how much we are serving other people, and there is nothing wrong with this, by the way, no matter how much we are serving other people, we are not going to continue doing the thing unless it serves us as well. So if your friends are coming to see your shows, they're coming to see your shows to support you, sure, that's nice. But because supporting you gives them something as well.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them an opportunity to learn and to see some new situation, to hear a story, to, be transformed by music, to allow music to impact them in whatever way it will.
Mm-hmm. So when we see people all the time, we see people posting about their performances, and they'll use social media to advertise a performance or some event that they have coming up. And they'll post about it like, come support me, or come check out this show, or come support all these fabulous musicians. And then we see all these other things like, you need to support local music, because if we don't support local music, it dies, and all of this stuff. And that's true, but people don't go to the show to support other people necessarily, unless you're close friends, unless it's your mom. Your mom's going to come to support you, hopefully. But that's not why you're going to get a bunch of people to come to a performance. They're going to come to the performance because they want to feel a certain way. They want to experience a transformative feeling. They want to experience a deep emotional impact from that performance. And so when you are selling that performance, when you are marketing whatever it is that you are, the product that you are selling, it is counterintuitive to a lot of us, but you have to take you out of the equation. It's not about you at all. It's about what they are getting. It's about the future version of that customer. So how is what you are presenting going to take them from their current situation to their future desired situation?
But I'm going to sort of detour a tiny bit. Here's the beauty about all of this. When we are focused on the transformation that we are providing, on the story that we are telling, when we are focused, I tell my students, there's a difference between when you're telling a story, when you're focused on the story that you're telling, it's like you're creating a hologram between you and your audience, rather than when you're focused on yourself and there's a gulf between you and your audience. It's performer up here, audience out there, right? So when we are telling the story, when we are bringing them in, when we have their transformation as our goal in a performance, then we're not focused inward on ourselves. And then all of the performance anxiety goes away. And all of the challenges of like, oh my God, I have to block this and I have to get over here. And if I don't cross at this place, then I'm not going to get to this person. And that all...
have to hit the high note.
Right, yeah. Hit the high note. I know. We don't have to be violent with high notes. That's a whole other class. But allowing yourself to be present in the story you're telling means that you are inviting your audience into a shared reality. So they are stepping in and experiencing this with you, and it's not the same separation between you and them.
So that's what we call transformative singing, right? Instead of impeded singing. Impeded singing being when you are focused on your technique and you're focused on how you will be perceived and you're focused on whether you're going to get it right and all of these things about you, you're cut off from making that connection with the audience. When you focus on that connection, when you focus on the message, when you focus on the transformation, then that's what we call transformative singing. And you are more empowered to make a stronger impact on your audience. Same goes for teaching voice lessons or teaching in any modality. And we talk about different modalities of teaching as well in a different class. But whatever it is that you're doing, when you have the mindset of, okay, how is this benefiting the people on the other side of this equation, rather than how is it benefiting me, then you're going to be much more successful in drawing people to you. You're going to be much more successful to bring people into your sphere of influence because they know that they're getting something from that. They know that they can benefit from coming into that sphere.
Yeah. They're not paying for you to feel better. They're paying for themselves to feel better.
Exactly. So knowing that, with that kind of paradigm shift in mind, we have a little exercise that we want to have you all try, and that's we're gonna create a mock Facebook post or social media post. So if you have an upcoming engagement, so maybe it's a workshop that you're giving, maybe it's a performance that you're giving, maybe it's a class that you're teaching, whatever it is, create
or
an
something
engagement,
from your past if you don't have anything
that you've already done
in the works right now.
Create it can be an imaginary engagement, could be a real engagement, but whatever it is, you're going to create a short little Facebook post that is designed to draw people into it. And so the thing that you're keeping in mind here is that it's not about promoting you, even though it is, but it's about what are they going to get by coming to that event? How are they going to benefit? So take a few minutes, do that, and as you're doing that, we're going to talk about what are some of the different avenues that you can use to promote your brand, yourself as an artist. So obviously, social media is a huge one nowadays, and that's new within the last 20 years. Before that, there was no social media, and it's becoming more and more just a part of how people do business, and it's a part of how we communicate with each other. It's just a part of life for most people nowadays, for better or worse.
And different social media platforms are more or less beneficial for different types of performances, different types of offerings that you have. And there is sort of there's a whole other world to figuring out how to advertise within those. Aside from just posts, but like, do you have your own group? Do you have, if you're on TikTok, how often are you posting videos? How often are you making posts?
What kind of videos are you posting?
And so that's all stuff we dig into more, as with our coaching clients.
But so just broadly speaking, we have social media, lots of different types of platforms within social media and different ways to go about that. You can utilize the power of the press release. And so a lot of people think if you want to get your stuff into a newspaper or on the radio or on TV or something, you have to pay to advertise. You have to pay to put in a classified ad. And you can do that. That is definitely one avenue that you can take. But a press release, a well-written press release that's sent out to all of the media outlets in your area is, first of all, free and can be way more effective if it's put together really well. So one press release can go to 10 different newspapers and 10 different TV news stations and 10 different radio stations within a given area. And if they really like it, then they contact you, they set up a time for you to do an interview. You get to tell even more about what it is that you're doing, and your message gets spread to a much wider audience than just doing a single classified ad.
And it's amazing how many of these interviews that we've ended up doing have led to other interviews that we didn't expect. We had Ryan Warner from Colorado Matters on NPR.
Colorado Public Radio.
Just sent us a message out of the blue. We had no idea that he had heard an interview that we had given and invited us to give an interview on NPR or on CPR.
Right. So then once you get it going at first, you get some initial spreading of your message, and then people hear that and they're like, "Ooh," the right people hear that and they say, "Ooh, I want to know more about that. I want to get them on my platform." And then it can snowball from there. And if it's if you go about it the right way, you can get a lot of mileage out of that one press release that doesn't cost anything to write, doesn't cost anything to send.
Yeah, for sure.
So those can be super powerful, and there's a whole art to how to write press releases that we talk about within our program. We won't have time to get to that today, but it's still the same basic concept applies, that it's not about you. It's about what people are going to get. It's about what is the story that is newsworthy that you can put in that press release. How is this benefiting other people? Posters are still a thing that we do and are still a useful way to spread awareness of what you do. A lot of times posters nowadays you can still hang them up in the community, or if you're at an institution somewhere, at a school, you can hang posters up on campus or whatever that might be. But really, more and more, it's digital.
Yeah.
Getting those posters out in the digital world, in the digital realm.
Right. And also being creative with the types of places that you post posters and different kinds of advertisements, and recognizing, okay, we can do this at, music stores. We can do this at places where we know there are musicians, but where else do these people hang out? Where are the artists chilling on Saturday nights? Like, what's going to benefit us? as far as, where do we post these posters where people are going to see them beyond just, this is where I take my kid for music lessons, right? So that's a really, really good way to go. If you can be creative and open-minded about where you're posting those. Emails, having email lists of people, that's huge.
Yeah, email is still a thing. People still do email, and if you're on this call, you've probably received lots of emails from us. And that is still a very effective way to reach a lot of people if you have an email list built, and if you have a way to build up that email list. And there are a lot of different ways that you can build that. There are different ways to bring those people into your sphere of influence and collect email addresses that then you can keep in touch with the people that are interested in what you have to offer.
Yeah.
Word of mouth, obviously, that's probably one of the better ways to do things. If you're really good at what you do and people notice that, then they're going to tell other people about it, and they do the work for you. They're advertising on your behalf already.
Right. And to sort of piggyback off of that, if we're talking about building a studio, I would say the best way that we've ever found to build studios is to go into schools, do master classes, especially after all of the concerts are done for the year. Every choir director is like just begging for people to come in and teach his students or her students something, right? Because then that means that they don't have that responsibility. Go do master classes. Go work with students. At colleges, absolutely. At high schools, no matter what level you love teaching, you can find, word of mouth is huge on this too, because then the students are telling their friends like, hey, this voice teacher came in and worked with
parents.
my students.
And not just for teaching, but for performances that you have as well. Who is the demographic that you think would enjoy that performance? Go see if you not just schools, but senior centers, church choirs, community choirs, theaters, community theaters. Go do a little outreach performance of something that, an excerpt of something that you're about to perform in a bigger engagement, and offer it for free, and just get people to see what you do, see what you offer. And then maybe, along with that performance, maybe you do a little workshop, or you do a little Q&A session, or you do something that they can, they get a little extra benefit from. And then they're all of a sudden within your sphere of influence. They see what they can get from your performance and from your offering. And they're much more likely to then stick with you and come to come pay to see the actual thing that you're doing, whether that's a performance or a workshop or voice lessons or whatever the case is.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't actually on this list, but as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about all of the times that people have come to see us perform because they've seen a different performance that we've given. So go sing jazz at a restaurant, go make music for people because it's your joy and not because you're seeking financial gain from it at some point, and then people get excited by that. Go do lecture recitals at Music Educator Association conferences or at musicology conferences. There are oh my gosh, I'm a nerd. We're both total nerds. But like lecture recitals are so much fun. You get to dig in so deeply, and it's such a joy to share this stuff with people who are passionate about it. And then they're all excited to come see you sing again.
Totally. And that, like, the idea of a lecture recital sounds very academic, and it can be, but it doesn't have to be. You can, we do lecture recitals as part of a doctoral degree. We do, you see people do lecture recitals at conventions and stuff, but you can do a lecture recital and just call it something sexier. And you'd sing the music that you want to sing, and you just tell a story about whatever it is that you're singing. That's technically a lecture recital, but you can call it you can call it a story through song, or something that doesn't give it quite the same like stodgy academic feel to it. And then you can invite a whole different type of demographic to attend that. And then it's the more that you can create performance opportunities for yourself, whether or not you get a lot of money from those performances, you
certainly can.
You can get a lot of money from those, but even if you don't, if you invite the right people and you bring the right eyes and ears into the audience seats, then those lead to bigger and better things. And that's outreach, and that's word of mouth. That's how we get our message out there that way.
Yeah.
The other way is paid advertisements, and there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can leverage this idea of paid advertisements.
And this doesn't have to be a ton of,
No.
It can be $5 a day on a
Or
paid
even
Facebook
less.
ad, or
Yeah,
$2.50.
you can do paid advertisements through social media now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a member of our Transformative Singers Facebook group, chances are good that you found out about that group because of a paid advertisement. It may have just looked like a Facebook post, but it was an ad. And then that has a link that brings you to the group. And so paid advertisements through social media, paid advertisements through local news sources, TV, radio, newspaper, those still are actually quite effective, and we use those whenever we do local events. And even outside of social media, you can use Google ads, and Google ads pop up all over the place. Whenever people do a search for something, the top several results on any Google search are paid advertisements. And you can do all kinds of stuff with that. There's a whole art to how to do online ads, and it can take a little bit of figuring out, but you can start with a very minimal amount of money to invest in those, and it can actually go a really long way if you do it the right way, if you know what you are selling.
Yeah. And the cool thing about those ads is you can really, really target exactly who your demographic is. So you can say people between the ages of 25 and 30 who are professional singers who it can be really, really specific. Mm-hmm. And the more niche specific you get, the more successful you will be, because you are targeting the people who are looking for exactly what it is that you have to offer.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this is sort of a soapbox that I get on sometimes, but be your brand. I see so many times people who are like, I teach children, and then their Facebook page is covered in, F-bombs and pictures of hot chicks or whatever it is. And I would probably not send my children to a teacher who was advertising them in that way. And because every way that we put ourselves out there is an advertisement for who we are, for our identity in some way. So be the person in public that you want people to know you as in private. And we all have, we're all different people. Like, Graham knows me better than anybody else. He knows more about me than my Facebook profile would suggest, although I'm pretty transparent on my Facebook profile. There are things about me that I probably don't want to air, as dirty laundry in public. And so I am careful about how I put myself out there. And I think that is such an important thing. When you go into a place, be the person, be the authentic version of the person that you want to portray as your business, as your brand, mm-hmm. right? So every time you go to the grocery store, recognize that you might meet somebody who is going to have an impact on your life. And carry yourself in that way. Carry yourself with kindness and with respect and with authority. If it comes up, there have been how many conversations have we ended up having with people about voices, randomly?
Oh yeah,
all the time.
Just perfect strangers in the store somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So however you put yourself out there, even if you don't think that this is an advertisement or this is a way that I'm trying to bring people into my sphere of influence, you still are, people are going to come and check out, okay, I want to know more about this person, or I want to know more about this organization, or I want to know more about this performance. I want to know more about what's going on here. They're going to come check out more of your stuff. They're going to look at your page, or they're going to look at your whatever profile you have or your website, and they want to get a sense of, what are they really going to get themselves into if they invest in this thing. And if you're not congruent with what you're advertising and then what you're being in other ways, how you're presenting yourself in other ways, then that creates a cognitive dissonance for people that makes them uncomfortable. I don't know if I really want to trust what that says if this is something different that I'm seeing with them over here. So yeah, absolutely. Be your brand. Be a good person. Be honest. Be transparent. And you don't have to try to hide things.
And
you don't have to be somebody different than you are.
Genuinely care about people.
But yeah.
I want that message to be for every single person on the planet. Just don't be kind because it makes your brand look good.
Because it serves you. Be kind because being kind is good. But that plays right into this same thing, the same concept of you're not selling you. You are selling a future version of somebody else. You are selling an opportunity for transformation for somebody else. So when you approach this whole idea of marketing, of self-marketing, from the standpoint of your customer, which your audience, your students, your whatever people are going to pay to come interact with you, when you put their needs and their wants and their desires first in your point of focus, then you can't help but lead with kindness. You can't help but lead with empathy and with compassion. That's just it's better business, but it's also better just interpersonal interaction. It's better, society creation.
This is also absolutely true of job interviews. If you are trying to get a job with some company or some university or some whatever it is, when you are in an interview,
which an audition is an interview.
An audition is an interview, absolutely. Or going to work at a designer clothing store whenever we are interviewing. The interviewer doesn't care who we are. He or she cares what we can do for the people that we are serving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you helped me with this a bunch a couple of years ago, that we were revamping all of our materials to, apply for college jobs and stuff. And recognizing that all of my materials were like, my CV is like, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, rather than this is what my experience, this is how my experience helps you, this is how my experience helps you, this is how my experience helps you.
Right. If you're interviewing for an academic position, how does your experience and what you have to offer, how does that help the department? Rather than, here's how good I look because of all of these cool things that I've done, here's how all of that stuff is going to help the students. If you're going into an audition for an opera company or for a theater company or for whatever, a production company, when you list out all of the things that you have done, how can you work that either through the way that it looks visually or through the wording that you choose to show like, okay, I can make an impact on your audience. I can make people laugh. I can make people cry. I can make people have an emotional experience when I sing for them. How are you going to convey that in your audition materials and in the actual audition itself? The auditions are not about you being, singing these glorious high notes. Or it's not about you being perfect with this difficult music. It's about you making an emotional impact on the panel. Because if you make an emotional impact on the audition panel, they understand that the audience is going to have that same kind of experience.
Right. Yeah. Every audition, I tell my students, your job is not to go in there and show off your voice. Your job is to go make them cry. If you make them cry, you have the job, no matter if you cracked a high note or if your vibrato was uneven or what happened. If you pull out of them some deep emotion, they're handing you a contract. Mm-hmm. Here's your job,
Absolutely. So, did anybody? I'm curious what you all came up with for your with your social media posts. So, if you came up with something, just a short little paragraph to advertise a pretend show that you're doing, go ahead and put that in the chat, and let's see what y'all came up with. And while you're doing that,
if you didn't and you want to send us one later for feedback, we're happy to do that.
Sure,
too.
Absolutely. So here we have Jake says, for a concert he did last year, do you love the beautiful lyrical lines of Bernstein? You yearn to hear Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera talk about how much he loves music and night. Come Thursday night to hear me and my friends move and transform you through the power of music with selections from popular musical theater, including Music of the Night and Maria. Yeah, you're on the right track with that. There's some ways that we could tighten that up and kind of, I think there's still like, come hear me is...
And come hear this music rather than like, come see how this music like lends itself to a more fulfilled version of yourself a little bit. That is, you are on the right track though.
Yeah, but there's still, I think you can take you out of the picture even more there, and it'll be more effective.
Yeah.
So for instance, I did a Messiah show recently, and I just made a short little like 2-sentence post about it.
It was great.
and it was, I mean, it was. I thought it was corny because I don't feel uplifted by Handel as much. He's not my jam, but a lot of people do. And so I said, come be uplifted by the immortal genius of Handel. And it was a free concert. It was like donations. And so you can come and, feel all of these amazing things, and, your wallet won't be any lighter for it. Something like that. I don't remember the exact wording, but it was
You said
all
something about how it was short too.
Yeah, it was a condensed version of Messiah. It was a digestible portion of Messiah. That was it. So
a digestible portion of Messiah.
But it was all about what are you going to gain by coming to this. It was nothing about it was come support me or the orchestra or the singers, the choir. It was here's what you are going to gain by coming to this performance. And a lot of people came to it. I don't know if they came because of my post, but we did have a good audience for that. So, but yeah, you're on the right track here, Jake. And a lot of times the shorter the better too. And I struggle with that because I'm, as you can tell, verbose. I like to talk for a long time. Cool. Any questions or just comments, thoughts at all from those of you who are on live right now? Before I get this link that I'm going to share with you. Yes, Laura.
I don't know if you covered this before I got here, but I'm just wondering if you have any advice on building websites and recommended help for that.
Yeah.
My advice is hire someone to do it for you.
So yeah, we built our website.
Really, Graham built our website. That was not my baby.
I built the Sing for Your Lives, the original version of the Sing for Your Lives website using Wix, which is they have a free version of it. Then you can have various levels of paid plans and stuff for it. It's actually pretty slick if you're just doing it by yourself. It's relatively intuitive, and there's a lot of easy ways to just plug and play with that. There's a lot of other platforms that have a build your own website thing as well. The biggest thing with building a website is understanding how you want that website to function. And that for a while we wanted to put everything about ourselves out there on the website. Like, here's all of the stuff that we want everybody to know. We have tons of information.
A dissertation.
Yeah, we basically, but it was all scattered, and there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to it. It was just like, here's all of our thoughts put into these different pages in digital format, and it didn't flow. There was no functionality to it. People didn't know how to navigate through it. It was kind of a mess. So it took us a while to kind of, okay, that's not really working well. How can we streamline this? How do we just put the information that is necessary for people to get their interest piqued in what we do, so that then they generate a conversation with us, and then that leads to them either coming on as students or coming to a performance, coming to a workshop, whatever the case might be.
To answer your question a little bit, and then also to answer Jake's question in the chat, how do you kind of get out of your own way and overthink your marketing and not overthink your marketing? I would say have people read it who don't know what you're selling.
Yeah, big time. Because you will always make assumptions about the things that you're saying, and you don't realize that you're making those assumptions.
Because you know your product, you know what you're offering, and you are writing this with the full understanding of what it is that you're presenting.
Yeah. So give it to somebody else who doesn't know what you are, doesn't know what you have to offer necessarily, who is not in your world. Ideally, somebody that is within your niche, your target demographic. So they at least know, like, they're not totally ignorant about what it is. But get them to read it and say, just ask them, does this make sense? How do you react to this? How do you respond? And tell them to be, get somebody who is going to be honest and not just try to make you feel good about yourself, because that doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Get somebody who's going to be honest and say, yeah, I have no clue what this means. I don't know, I don't know what you're actually trying to say to me here. Because it's gonna force you to start to think of things from the buyer's perspective. It's called copywriting, right? So copy is any kind of a Facebook post is copy, an advertisement writing is copy, or even the email is copy. Copywriting is a totally different art form than academic writing or creative writing or writing to your friends or whatever. It takes a little bit of wrapping your brain around and doing it the wrong way for a while, and then again constantly refining. But
all right guys, thanks all for coming.